Okay, hey, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. To have a really cool review for you guys from the brand H.G.P, which is the French abbreviation for Frogmen of Paris. Once a diving equipment store in Paris from the 1970s to the 1990s, it was really known for the fact that they would team with brands within the French watchmaking industry like Monin to create custom dive watches under the H.G.P brand. Now, Monin famously is known for their Hoyer Monin 844 divers of the late 1970s. The Monin design and case was used by several watchmakers throughout the 70s and 80s, including Zinn, Breitling, Aquadive, and of course H.G.P, to name a few. They are now a member of France Horology, the professional union of French watchmakers and sister brand to Walbrook. They offer watches proudly assembled and QC'd in France. This is of course a dive watch, some key characteristics and design which you're looking for a diver. Of course, you're going to find water resistance, typically paired to some type of screw down crown. You want something that's tough, legible with a dive time bezel, and a diver extension is always nice if on bracelet. This is their diver 300 meter automatic Commando, and it's the lesser known Monin case diver finally recreated for modern wear. These go for just $591 direct as configured on the nylon strap. Of course, it could cost a little bit more if you have a different strap option like their rubber tropic style strap. This piece was kindly lent in by H.G.P for the purpose of this review, but of course all thoughts and feedback are always going to be my own. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay guys, now very handsome, quite quite iconic as well. Some of you are going to recognize this design language, of course, from also some Squale based cases, that we've seen used from the likes of Blancpain in the 1970s. Now, this is going to have dimensions of a 41.5 millimeter in diameter, 12.1 millimeters thick, and 48 millimeters, 48.2 millimeters lug to lug. And of course, that's measuring off of my own calipers. You're going to have stainless steel construction brushed with nice polished accents. Check that out. Oh, sorry, not as nice because I got fingerprints on it, but check out the nice sharp transition. I'll give it a quick little extra wipe here. It's a warm Southern California evening as I'm filming this. Now, this does have a flat sapphire crystal with an inner anti-reflective coating, and you do get 120 click bezel, but it's bidirectional, which is very cool. It has a nice tactile engagement. The coin edge grip is quite good. And it does have, of course, also a countdown bezel. So that definitely does tie into that military theme where you're going to have objectives that essentially may be timed, right? So essentially, if you needed to do something in 40 minutes, by the time that minute hand gets here, you're counting down from 40 minutes. So very useful. And the fact that it is bidirectional instead of unidirectional also means that it's going to be a little bit more versatile for timing functions. So I do like that. Again, also nice action. Now, also, it does have an aluminum bezel insert. You can see it is fully indexed, so that is outstanding and definitely quite function forward. And then you do have this nice screw down crown, which is beautifully tucked away at that 4 o'clock position. And of course it is a screw down crown. When you unscrew it, there's going to be more room, but I do like how flush everything sits. And it's not finicky. Essentially, like once you pop this out, you do what you got to do. And the movement that it's going to be actuating, although you can't see it due to the solid sterile case back there, as you guys can see, it's going to be your Miyota 9039. So no date movement, 42-hour power reserve beats at 4 hertz or 28,800 vibrations per hour. Now, additionally, you're going to have this accurate to plus or minus 15 seconds per day, which is much appreciated. And then in terms of the dial there, guys, pretty simple and straightforward. Matte black dial, raised indices, Superluminova C3. You're having 30 atmospheres or 300 meters of water resistance, 20 millimeter lug width, and you're getting this 20 millimeter single pass, 270 millimeter nylon strap. You can see fixed keeper here, and then actually nicely multi-finished buckle here. Look at that. You're getting a top brush, and then you're going to have a nice beveled chamfer, which absolutely goes with these beautiful bevels and the case. So nicely tied together there. Again, 316L stainless steel, and I think this thing is quite handsome. So with that said, let's get it on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, or 19 centimeter in circumference, sits really beautifully, quite handsome, definitely more of a full-sized wear. Of course, I get my wrist a bit too close to the camera lens. You can notice quite a bit of perspective distortion, making the watch seem much larger, just because really the sides of my wrist are falling away, and thus the strap. So I'll keep my wrist nice and low, and look at that, all of a sudden a lot more centered on the wrist. Nothing changed. Again, it's just the perspective. So what I'll do is tighten up the frame here so that you guys can get still a detailed look, but just add a bit of a truer aspect ratio as to how this may lay on your own wrist. And check that out. I think that sits just about perfectly dialed in. I really do enjoy these proportions with the larger kind of maxi style of index there, of course, beautifully balanced against 12 and 24-hour scaling, and with, of course, the 60-minute countdown timer on that outer scale. And then, of course, you do have the nice diver logo on there. I think this thing is a real treat visually, and you can see it sits quite well. Look at that. Now at 48.2 millimeters lug to lug. Of course, for the smaller wrists, you might be a little worried, but as you can see here, even though my wrist isn't super wide, flat, and accommodating, thanks to the organic turn down nature on those lugs there, it's going to wrap quite nicely. You're not going to see a lot of gappage. It doesn't seem like it's sitting on top of the wrist. It definitely feels like it's riding the wrist, even with a pass-through nylon putting itself in between the case back and your wrist. So yeah, I think this thing looks great, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Let's go ahead, get this off the wrist, set it for some Lume shots, the light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Yes, look at that Lume. Quite nice. I mean, orientation wise, you do know where those cardinal points are, although I will say, it is going to be a little tougher to decipher 12 o'clock versus 3, 6, and 9. But of course, as long as this watch is on your wrist, you should have easy orientation. But yeah, maybe when you're looking across at your nightstand in the middle of the night, it's not going to be quite as quick to read. But again, the nice thing is you're not always going to be in pitch black environments. You're going to be having, of course, some mixed lighting most of the time. You're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight either. So it's nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. As you guys can see, as long as you got a little bit of lighting, you're going to be able to see the general orientation there, and it's going to be quite legible thanks to the matte finish. So this watch looks great. I mean, no, it's not super versatile. This isn't going to be something you're going to necessarily want to wear with a tuxedo. But in the world of watches with quirks like Squale, like Doxa, like Aquadive, right? Something like this, I think it's just a really cool option, especially on the cheaper side from a French watchmaker, right? Like this has chops to it, and I don't mind it. There's so many brands that are revived, that come out, and they just, the prices really skyrocket. I think H.G.P is one of those brands you just want to look at, not to necessarily find something that is luxury level of fit and finish, but something that is an absolute tool watch, that is, functionally pretty outstanding. And it even has, of course, design language that it helped pay forward in terms of tying to their original releases. So with that said, let's go ahead and check out the closing thoughts, guys. On the wrist, great wear profile, chunky and overbuilt, without feeling oversized. In terms of model variants, definitely check the site links for current options and availability. Currently, at the time of filming, it's pretty much going to be just 2 different strap options, but this is the only colorway. I would love to see them release more, maybe one with date, something like that, because I know that's very hit or miss with some buyers. Now, in terms of comparable models, guys, more affordable options. That's what this is a more affordable option to the popular Squale 1521 case shape. And, you know, other than that, it's tough to say. I mean, of course, there are some other homages, but H.G.P, again, being that, you know, having that history, I think is something that helps set them apart. Now, in terms of the bottom line for me, guys, H.G.P divers, they hit a real sweet spot, right? Representing both value and iconic design. And I like that, although they're very clearly vintage inspired, they do make an effort to upgrade and modernize without really overdoing anything. They have a very balanced approach, and I think aesthetically this thing is just killer. But let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you liked the video, please like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.